The aftermarket garage says, well, our supplier said those wheels are fine for that car. The supplier said, sorry, the insurance company says, well, you didn't tell us, so your insurance is void anyway. And this whole issue of interconnecting demands on whether the insurance company should pay up or whether the supplier of the component part is responsible is what I hope we can make progress in this area at this conference and try to set some standards, as I say, throughout the GCC. I know it's not going to happen overnight. We're not going to get perfect solutions to these many questions. But as a car enthusiast, I applaud you for this display of common concern, that you're here, that you're interested in these topics, and that these matters are now being tackled. So without further ado, because we don't have long, I should like to now open the discussion, and I would like to welcome, for the first presentation, Dr. Michael Heinrich, founder of Heinrich & Partners. Dr. Michael was born in Hanau in '65. I'm not sure I should read that out, I'm sorry. He studied law and business administration in Frankfurt am Main, and after completing his studies, worked as a scientific assistant at the Institute for Commercial and Civil Law at Frankfurt University. So, without further ado, I should like to welcome Dr. Michael.
So, thank you very much for the very warm welcome and the second introduction I had. So, I feel that it is not necessary that I say some additional words to me. Let's start with my issue. But first of all, two good and positive informations for you. The first positive information is that I keep my speech short, since I think the time is running. And the second good information for you is that I, although I'm a lawyer, I try not to annoy you with any paragraphs and special legal sections and things like this. The thing I would focus on is to improve your awareness that the standardization issue is not a standalone issue, but it is interconnected and combined with a lot of other problems, in particular with warranty issues and the insurance issues. So, as I promised, I will not annoy you with any legal details, and therefore I decided to start with an advertisement. With an advertisement of BMW, obviously, but this is not the most important point. It could be also an advertisement of Mercedes or any other car manufacturer. Why did I choose these advertisements? For two reasons. The first reason is that this advertisement shows from the real world the samples and combinations of warranty and insurance issues. As you can see from this advertisement, BMW, for example, offers motor vehicle insurance, car insurances for the car itself, tire and rim insurances, warranty insurances, warranties itself, extended warranty insurances, motor equity insurances, and loan protection insurances, and last but not least, lease protection insurances. So you see that we have a lot of combinations between warranties, insurances, and all these stuff. And it is, from my point of view, as a lawyer, not clear in every case what is meant by these wordings by, for example, an extended warranty insurance or motor insurances, and so on and so on. And if you read the advertising, the advertising message of BMW, you will learn that it's even for BMW, or at least the advertising agency, not very clear what is meant by all these insurances and all these warranties. As you can see, they mention extend your peace of mind, but obviously there's a typo, an error in this claim. It is not extend your peace of mind. Meant is peace of mind, which is corrected in the text below. So you can see that's the second reason for why I choose this example. That even for BMW and the advertising agency, it is not clear what is meant by peace of mind and by all these insurance and warranty stuff. So from my point of view, it is very important to get a little bit more clarification in this context, since the situation is complicated, since we have a lot of parties involved in this context. Most of the parties have been named during the discussion this morning, but I think it is helpful to present the parties on the screen. We have the official authorities, we have the car manufacturers with their own interests, we have the aftermarket manufacturers, we have the modifiers, we have the garage, we have the distributors, we have, last but not least, the insurance companies, and also the end consumer, which is important, first of all, also of all these safety issues we discussed this morning. And even if we have a lot of involved parties in this context, there are also a lot of legal aspects which are relevant in this context, in this issue. First of all, the official regulatory law, we discussed this morning. All these questions which are related to standardization, to licensing of the cars and or of the parts. It's also important from my point of view to differentiate between the cars, modification of the cars on the one side, and parts on the other side. We have the statutory rights, we have the question of warranties and or guarantees. I say some words to warranties and guarantees later on. We have the insurances, we have to handle with the exceptions due to modifications relating to warranty and insurance issues, and we have also the general legal framework in Europe, for example, the antitrust law. I come back to this point later on, and also the regulatory law with regard to standard terms and conditions, which sets a special framework, which what standard terms and conditions are allowed, and what standard terms and conditions are not allowed. To the single legal issues, shortly to the statutory rights, it is essential that we are aware that the basic for our discussions with regard to the end consumer is always the statutory rights. Statutory rights means that when an end consumer buy goods, car for example, or also aftermarket products from a trader, he enters into a contract which is controlled by various laws, including the relevant sale of goods acts, and the law gives the end consumer certain rights under this contract, means the statutory rights. Following the relevant law, goods should be of satisfactory quality and fit for the purpose made known to the trader. That's the essential of the statutory rights, and if goods do not conform with the contracts, then the end consumer is legally entitled to one of the following remedies, its repair or replacement of the goods, the rescission or cancelling, or a reduction on price and damages. It's depending from the law system, but that's the basic. The second issue is related to the guarantees. Regularly, the understanding of the guarantee is that a guarantee is an agreement given by the car manufacturer or any other person, like, for example, an aftermarket manufacturer or a car modifier, to repair, replace, or refund goods that do not meet the specifications that are in the guarantee. So please be aware that it's always additional to the statutory rights. And there are also a lot of combinations in this context. For example, insurance-based guarantees, combinations between guarantees and insurances. As mentioned, guarantees additional to the statutory rights and then consumers and must not affect those rights in any way the end consumer has. The next issue is warranties. Even here we have the regular warranty, or we have the extended warranty, which extends, as the name says, the regular warranty given by the car manufacturer or also by the aftermarket manufacturer. And obviously we have the insurances, as mentioned this morning. We have to differentiate in general between the liability insurances and the product insurances itself, which cover any damages on the car itself, and then some kind of service insurances, first of all combined with the warranties. We will see this the details later on. As mentioned, we have a lot of possibilities to combine all these guarantees, warranties, statutory rights, and insurances. For example, as mentioned at the beginning, motor vehicle insurance, tire and rims, warranty extended, motor equity insurance, and so on, and so on. So, it is very important to be aware that, and it is wondering that this is the fact, that we have a lot of conflicts in this area, since we have a lot of parties involved, beginning from the official authorities, over the car manufacturers and the aftermarket manufacturers, and at the other end the end users, and a lot of, as mentioned, legal aspects involved in the present case. So I try to focus on three potential conflicts, on three major conflicts. The first conflict is the question of the scope of the warranty and the insurance. My example from the BMW, for example, is that they offer a comprehensive component cover, or a named component cover, or a driveline component cover, which is defined in detail in the standard terms and the conditions of the BMW insurance standard terms and conditions. And the first question in this context is that we must be very careful that we have a reasonable scope for the warranties and insurances, that these cases which must be covered are really covered in general by the warranty and by the insurance. The second potential conflict is, and this has been mentioned by Professor Buschmann during our discussion, for example, who must carry out the services to keep the warranty alive, to keep the insurance alive, or, for example, to keep also the official license alive in this context. Must it be the authorized dealer Must it be an authorized service partner, authorized always by the car manufacturer? Or can it be any garage or any modifier? The answer maybe is, I will present this on a further slide, that also in this case we have to differentiate. From my point of view, maybe the solution is that all essential work which is related, for example, to safety issues, or which is essential in the sense that it is combined with essential parts of the car, for example, the engine or the brakes, must be carried out by authorized dealers or authorized service partners, but any other, or at least any other works must be carried out, but it must be possible that these works can be carried out by any other garage or modifier. In the European Union, for example, this is also a question of antitrust law. Since some years we have a modification of our antitrust law, where it stated that all work with regard to the car, which is not related to essential parts, like the engine, for example, can be carried out also by any garage, and must not be carried out by authorized dealers or authorized service partners of the car manufacturer. The third, and from my point of view, most important conflict is the question of it is allowed to make exceptions with regard to the warranty and or the insurance due to modifications of the car and or parts. For example, BMW, but that is also for nearly any other car manufacturer, try to accept or to make exceptions in the standard terms and conditions with regard to any modifications. For example, BMW says that any alterations, any experimental equipment, and any modification from the approved specification, or for example also any racing kind, leads to an exception of the warranty and of the insurance. And at least under the European point of view, a basic prerequisite for example, an extended warranty insurance is that the motor vehicle must be in line with the regulatory law. That means it must have the necessary official licenses and acceptances in this context. So, possible solution, just mentioned shortly before, solution with regard to the first issue, scope of warranties and insurances. This is more or less a contractual question, a question of standard terms and conditions. Here it is very important to define an adequate and reasonable scope of warranty and insurances, and that must be handled, there must be a basis with the statutory law, with the regulatory law, but first of all this is a question of the standard terms and conditions of the insurance companies. Second issue, who must carry out services as mentioned? From my point of view, substantial and safety relevant services must be provided by authorized dealers and or service partners, but any other services can be provided by any garage. Third issue, exceptions due to modifications. According to my point of view, it is reasonable that substantial modifications to essential components, for example of the motor or any other essential parts, in particular parts which are security relevant, can be made by authorized dealers and or authorized service partners. Minor modifications in any event can be made by any party. And one of the most important issues is, in particular, for the aftermarket producers or any party or any company who is involved in the modification of the car, is that they must be able or should be able to provide, if necessary, some extended or special warranty or insurances if we have an exception from the insurance and or warranty of the car manufacturer. So that the end consumer and the safety question is on the safe side. So at the end I come back to my advertisement, to my example, and I hope that you agree with me that it is not so simple to extend the peace of mind with regards to warranty and insurance issues. But if we are aware of the problems, and if we are aware that the standardization is not only a standalone issue, standalone problem, but that it is combined also with warranty and insurance issues, it will be possible to find reasonable solutions. So therefore, the only remaining thing is to say thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Heinrich. We have one more speaker, and that is Mr. Subhash Joshi. Subhash is a human automotive and transportation consulting practice at Frost & Sullivan in the Middle East, North Africa, and South Asia. I won't take up too much more of your time, so without further ado, Mr. Subhash, would join us. Thank you. I'm sure you can probably know your exact role there, and I understand you're a flight to catch? Or was that? Yeah. Okay, I'll take more of your time.
Thank you, Jim. Good afternoon, everyone. I would say early good evening to all. I completely understand it's been a long day for all of us. Started at 9:30, so I would keep it short and sweet for the next 10-12 minutes. What we are going to do today, I'll be focusing on car modification market in the GCC and the strength weaknesses which we have today. So the three things which we are going to highlight in the today's session in next 10-15 minutes is going to be the car modification consumer behavior in the developed countries. I am starting with the US there and trying to relate it with the GCC, how the consumer behavior in GCC is related with the developed countries as well. After that, we will move to the second chapter of this presentation, which will draw similarities of the GCC car modification market with USA. And the last section will talk about the strengths and weaknesses of this market with some of the recommendations, what can be done to improve the car modification market in the GCC countries, especially in UAE and Saudi Arabia. So to start with, consumer behavior in USA and in the United States. When we talk about car modification, we are not only talking about modifying the complete car, but most of the consumer in the Gen Y or in the Gen X generation, they modify one or two parts in the vehicle. So we have conducted a detailed survey in the States, and there these three categories, which is tire, electronics and performance brakes, was the most modified product across all the categories. However, the share of performance exhaust as well as wheels is increasing, but rest all share is decreasing in the developed countries like US. So we can clearly see there is a reducing trend of expenses in the other categories apart from these three. And one is performance exhaust, another one is wheels. So I would say these five categories have the increasing trend. And the similar trend we have seen in the GCC as well, especially in UAE and Saudi Arabia, where a new owner of vehicle, who is 20 to 25 or even 30 year of age group, when they buy a vehicle, they go for these 3 modifications mostly. To talk about the uniqueness or to talk about the driving force behind modification, the one important factor here is, I would say, this car modification in the States being the only market which was not that much impacted with the global recession. If you look at the revenues which was earned by the modification industry there, was almost stagnant during the recession as well. And the key driving force for them is being the Gen Y generation. Here the profile, the enthusiast population are more attuned to newer vehicles, luxury vehicles and OEM parts, which means now the trend is shifting not only on the used vehicle, but when they buy a new vehicle, a luxury vehicle, they believe in doing the modification at the point of sale only, within the legislation limitations. So we have seen increased dollar spent, increased time allocated for the modification, and increased skill set because of the legislation which was put by the government in those developed countries, including US and Europe. How the typical behavior works. If I look at the developed countries, the 2/3 of the enthusiasts, they consider doing modification when they purchase their vehicle, which means they go to a OEM authorized distributorship rather than going to an aftermarket for modification. And it was completely opposite 7-8 years down the line, when we have seen the Japanese aftermarket product was sold in good quantities in the Western world, but now this is increasing there, and we have seen the similar trend coming up in this region as well. Similarly, if I talk about if I relate this with this chart, most of these modification is happening at the dealership, at the authorized dealership, within the legal boundaries. As I was mentioning, the share of OEM distributorship is almost 45%, and then it goes to the aftermarket. Finally, Japanese domestic products, which were the major shareholder few years back, but now their share has decreased in the developed countries because of the strict legislative control by the authorities. The interesting finding in this slide, now the youth, the under 30-year age customer, the enthusiast, they are moving towards go feature rather than a show feature. So they are more performance oriented rather than showing off by doing some exterior modification on their vehicle. So out of the total sample size, only the 26% enthusiast spend more than 51% on the show. But in case of go feature, the 47% of the enthusiasts have spent more than 51% on the go feature. So the performance driven modification is on increase globally. If I look at point of sale, these are the 3 key point of sale. Authorized retailer is the custom shop and the internet retailer. Now, we have seen these parts are getting sold through online platform globally. In fact, in the region, there are 4 tire companies who are selling tires, wheels, all those accessories online. And now they are moving towards providing modified tires, modified wheels. So we will see that trend coming up in the region, and we will see direct competition from online retailing. Now they are offering services. They are offering services like you buy it, go outside and fit it. You buy it, come to us and fit it. Or you buy it, we'll come to your home or your office and we'll fit it. So we'll see more of those services are coming in the region, mostly into tire, wheels segment. I'm moving to the second section, which is just a one slide which talks about that why this market is growing in the region. To talk about the key pointers here, the as Tim mentioned in his initial discussion, the high per capita income, which makes us unable to spend on all those products which are extra when we buy the vehicles, which is driving the modification, especially in UAE, in Qatar, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia. And with the population, the youth population is almost 44% of the total population right now in GCC, which gives us extra boost to these modified products in the region. The large vehicle park and the multiple car per family. Now, what we have here, over 12.5 million vehicles in GCC in the passenger car category. Out of that, mostly 70-75% are UAE and Saudi Arabia. Now, it gives us large pool of second-hand vehicles. If I look at last 1 month trend, there is a lot of used vehicle available in Abu Dhabi, and most of the people in Dubai are buying those vehicles from there, getting it modified in Dubai and using it in Dubai and Sharjah. That's a very recent trend in UAE. So the availability of used vehicle at very low prices makes it really easy to afford a modified vehicle as well in the region. The presence of majority of global brands. GCC, especially UAE, is one of the market where we can see 400 plus brands, 400 plus models available in the market. So if I need a performance brand, I can go for a Subaru or for a Nissan or for a Toyota. If I need to show off, I need to do modification in terms of show feature, I can go for a European or American brand. So a lot of brands available. In fact, the Subaru market share is increasing recently because of the performance modification which can be done on the vehicle. If I look at the Nissan Petrol, the second-hand Nissan Petrol prices has gone up because that vehicle allows you to do various modification on the performance front. A strong need for vehicle personalization. This is again a key trend in the region. When a customer buy a vehicle, he want to modify it from the exterior point of view, which is driving the growth of vehicle modification in the region. And a strong brand awareness and class consciousness, which is driving the modification in the luxury segment. The final section of the presentation, the key points here is high degree of personalization. If I look at the key trend, the 50% of cars present in the GCC have some level of modification, which means 6.5 million vehicles have some level of modification in GCC today. 25% of first-time buyers are preferring to personalize their vehicle. This is the current trend in the region, and this is likely to grow to 30-35% over next 4 to 5 years. The classic car in demand. I have recently seen a Mercedes showroom in Abu Dhabi, and they have created a separate segment for classic car and for their modification. This is again high in demand in the region. The influence of media. Fast and Furious 7 is getting shot in Dubai. The media influence the youth population a lot. In all these serials which are telecasted in the region as well, all this movie, it pushes modification to the next level. We have seen this trend in Japan, and now this trend is very, very evident in the UAE as well. Popularity of light truck. Almost 50% of population in the vehicle is in light truck category, which provides a lot of scope for modification. Off-roading culture, which is unique about the region. So for sand pushing, for off-roading, certain kind of modification which is required in the market, so they go for this kind of modification. Some of the weaknesses, the lack of the concrete regulation, the frequently penalizing minor modification as well, which we have seen. It's very evident in Saudi Arabia today, where even a minor modification is getting penalized by the local authorities. And large inflow of spurious parts, because everything is welcomed when we have just a 5% import duty in the region that allows even spurious parts trade in the market. However, government is working towards make availability of spurious parts very minimal. UAE government has been successful in that, but there is a key concern which is faced by Saudi Arabia and the Oman government. which is creating many problems and resulting into serious accidents. So these are the weaknesses when it comes to the modification as well as the spare part domain of it. I will quickly skip this slide. The final recommendation which I have here is licensing of modification garages. There are many modification garages in the region. There is a need of licensing those garages, creating a standard for those garages, so the unauthorized modification can be controlled from here, which can be also controlled by the special permits of the safe modification. And the last one is the tighter legislative control, clear guidelines for permitted modification. I have gone through several blogs in past 2 weeks, and in most of the blogs they were not able to get an answer that what is allowed as per law in terms of vehicle modification and what is not allowed. Somewhere it is written that even tinting is not allowed. Somewhere it is written that interior is allowed, but any kind of exterior modification is not allowed. So the communication of the law to the general population is not been there, and the region has more than 80% internet user. If I go to any youth today, they will be using Facebook, LinkedIn on their mobile every time. So a right usage of the platform to tell them what type of modification is allowed and what is not allowed is not being utilized in the region till now. And we are talking about a large population and who can afford the modification in the region. So I will close my session with this. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for that. And as I mentioned, Subash does have to get away to catch a flight, but we are now at the official end of the session. Before we wrap up completely, I would like to invite questions from the floor. So Subash, sorry, if you would like to maybe just join us for 10 minutes.
Sure.
And Dr. Heinrich, if I ask you to join us at the stage, Dr. Heinrich? Sorry. Before we start the questions, a couple of points. We would like to invite you all to please attend the networking evening, as well as all the delegates that are here for the conference today. There are also a number of other attendees who are coming in from probably a lot of the guys from the aftermarket workshops alike. I know I've invited a few to come along, and they are coming. A lot of people with a vested interest in issues such as kit cars and component modification. So it will be an excellent opportunity for a lot of discussion around the whole area of car modifications. So if I could ask you to join us on the stage, and Dr. Heinrich, if I could ask you, sorry. So any questions from the floor, please? Either there are no questions or everybody would like to finish at 4:35. Which is it? Surely there must be one or two questions on this issue. Okay, we have one. Good. Like an auctioneer.
I don't have a question. I'd just like to comment on Mr. Joshi's presentation. Very enlightening and very well researched.
Thank you very much. Mr. Joshi, congratulations. And to Andy as well, I'm sure. Any others? I actually have a question, so if it's correct to ask, I'm not sure. The issue of kit cars is one that's actually quite of interest to me, and the legislation of buying an authorised, let's say an already tested and approved kit, which has been designed in the US, Europe, Germany, perhaps England. What are the regulations here in this country? Is there anybody here that can answer that from the RTA or from CASHIEL? What are the rules and regulations in Germany and elsewhere that govern the design approval of kit cars?
So I can answer the question only for Germany, but in Germany you must get an approval a special approval, a single approval by the authorities relative, for example, for such kit cars. Yeah. But in the areas, I don't know.
That's the problem. I don't think everybody does know, but there are a few kit cars here, and everybody seems, as you said, the forums are alive with rumour and counter-rumour and people who have done it, and so it would be nice to get some clarification on the regulation of such things. And does nobody have any other questions for our two guests? You really are. Ah, yes, good. At the back, please. And please introduce yourself so that we know who you're from.
Imran from Ryan's, right? Same thing, my question is regarding home-built or garage-built cars, like completely built cars which no kit existed. So, like for example, we have bought a built one which is on the same lines as a Caterham. So how do we go about having registered or tested or something like that?
The only knowledge I have, unless somebody can help me from the floor, who has more authority than I do to answer this, is if you are lucky and the same car has already been built in the UAE and been approved, you are almost, you really want to get hold of the owner who built the previous one. Almost you want to take the other car along with you to the Tashiel, actually show them a registered one, so it's the same car from the same manufacturer.
Yeah, I can get hold of a Caterham here, so.
Yeah, the problem will be if it's a Caterham or if it's like a Westfield or something similar, you'll need a Caterham, not a Westfield, so it needs to be the same car. This is my own knowledge, my own personal experience, so I'm not sure if that's the law or the rule, but it seems to have worked in the past, that's all I can say.
Right.
Any other questions? Yes, please, sir.
Yes, please. I noticed some of the vehicles there in the show that has the brand name of the modifier, the company that modified these vehicles. Is that related to the warranty of these vehicles or not?
Yeah, the answer is clearly yes, yes. it is related, obviously, to the warranty, since at least, as mentioned, according to the standard terms and conditions with regards to the warranties and also to the insurances, any warranty and any insurance, not the liability, but the car insurance, the product insurance itself, is, at least according to the standard terms and conditions, and that's the wish of the car manufacturer, for example BMW, is null and void if any modification is made with regard to the car. So that's the answer. The other question is whether such standard terms and conditions are really based on the legal framework are allowed. According to my understanding and according to my experience, at least relating to Europe, this is not a good solution, and this is not a legal solution, since it must be allowed from my point of view that at least minor modifications, for example, if you change, which are not safety related and which are obviously not connected with the warranty or the insurance itself, must be allowed and must be possible by any garage or any modifier or something like this. Example given, if you change the color of the car from red to yellow, for example, then it must be allowed, and it cannot influence any warranty or insurance issues. But obviously, another example, if you change or modify the brakes of a car, this is from my point of view maybe another question, since this is obviously security related, and therefore there is a, let me say, a justified reason that, for example, the car manufacturer says in standard terms and conditions and in the contract, okay, this must be done, for example, substantial motor modifications or substantial brake modifications must be done by an authorized dealer or an authorized party, which is part of the distribution concept of the dealer, to ensure that the work is done properly, and the warranty, and this is the question, the warranty and the insurance is still valid. So And there is obviously also a big gray zone, for example, with regard to the seats. Is the seat security relevant part or not? There's a big gray zone, but yes, the answer is it influences in general the warranty.
I have another question for Mr. Joshi. Yes, please. You know, we have noticed some of the modification done by individual person. That means there is a person with some skill for technical, and they do the modification by themselves for their vehicles. How this is popular in a country like United States, and how it be controlled by the authorities there?
Okay, I will take two examples here. One is the United States and one is the Japan. One is the Japanese modification industry. So one is highly regulated and one is mediumly regulated industry. So when we talk about the US, they were facing a lot of problem from the small-time jobbers who was doing the minor modification in the vehicle, which makes your warranty null and void, as well as your insurance null and void for such kind of modification. So the legislation has come up which clearly says that when you buy the vehicle, the modification which is done by the authorized distributor under certain conditions, which is performance modification, will be allowed and your vehicle will be registered accordingly. Because let's say I'm buying a black vehicle and I want it to color, I want to give it 3 shades. So when I'm buying it, I can do it because the registration can happen under those 3 colors. If it is a black color and I want a matte black finish, at the time of buying it becomes easy for me to register the vehicle under black matte finish. Similarly, if I talk about the performance enhancement of the vehicle, government always preferred it to be done by an authorized distributor, authorized OEM distributor in those markets, and they are controlling it a lot in the US. So anything which is done in the aftermarket which can impact the drivability of the vehicle, which can make it vulnerable to the accidents, is completely prohibited in the United States. On the other side, Japan tried to do it by the legislation. They have not been successful because the quality of the skilled worker which we have in the aftermarket is really good in Japan. And they find it really cheap as well, doing the aftermarket rather than a distributor. So there it is very difficult. The challenge what we see in GCC right now, first of all, we do not have that skilled labor. So anything which is done in the aftermarket can be much more dangerous. So the regular checkups, at least once in 6 months or once in a year in the entire GCC countries are required. Let's say UAE has a every year registration concept, but Saudi doesn't have it. There, you register the vehicle after every 5 years, if it is a personal use vehicle. So same regulation for the entire Gulf Cooperation Council is required, where we can monitor that what type of modifications are done on the vehicle. At the same point of time, a clear communication of legislation or a law is required, because there is a lot of confusion around the public, around the people who want to modify their vehicle. And the large population of locals as well as expats, which includes European and Americans, they would love to go for the modification, but they are not clear that what laws are there. As law clearly states, I cannot put more than 3 colors on my vehicle, because I cannot identify which vehicle is that. I cannot do any modification around the 1 feet area of number plate. The law says that, but people are not finding an portal where they can be aware about it. So that is required right now.
As a consumer and user of lots of cars here over the years, I fully concur that it's really confusing. Where do you look for the regulations? Where do you go to? Who do you ask to understand what you can and can't do? Stickers, for example, are banned, and yet is a little sticker like that okay? Or if you've got racing decals over a car, that's definitely not okay. If you fit a roll cage, it's not okay. You have to register the car as a race vehicle. This is my understanding, but I don't know where the law stands on that. So I think that would be one thing as a consumer. I would definitely want greater clarification of the laws. But thank you very much for your insights, Mr. Savash. It's very kind of you. I know you're going to have to dash now, so I do appreciate you staying on for a few extra minutes for questions. Dr. Michael Heinrich as well, thank you very much. Gentlemen, Please come back this evening for the networking dinner. We look forward to seeing you there, and we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow morning bright and early. Thank you very much.